Thank you for joining. You're welcome to Workplace Conversations 2.0. Kunle Jide Ogundalu, you were the first to arrive. You arrived way before 7:30. We're glad that you've been very patient. Thank you so much for coming. We note you, and we thank you for your promptness. Please tell us where you're joining from. My name is Olumuyiwa Oludayo. I'm the convener of the Workplace Conversations. I'm here in Lagos, Nigeria. Where are you joining us from? Temitayo Ambosen, Samuel Taiwo, Shoji, Temitope Samuel Adewi. Can we know where you're joining from? Oredola, Kunle, Jonah, King Nicholas, Joyce Samuel, Friday, Ayomikun, Ayomide. Can we meet you? Let us know where you're joining us from. All right. Jonah is joining from Jos Plateau State. Okay, that's nice. Thank you for joining. Samuel Taiwo is Lagos, Nigeria. Ayomide, you're joining from Ogun State, Nigeria. Joyce Samuel is joining from Akure, Ogun State, Ondo State. Ayomikun is joining from Lagos. Thank you, Temitope from Ikorodu, Lagos. Friday from Lagos. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining. Today, all right, Temitayo. Okay. Say hello to someone in the chat. It's also an opportunity for us to network. You possibly also want to drop your LinkedIn profile. And you can share your LinkedIn profile in the chat. I think mine is this, I'm not sure. Be correct. No, it's not. Okay, yes, this is the correct one. Please drop your LinkedIn chat, LinkedIn pages in the chat. I'm looking to connect with more of you. That's my link. Let's not have a boring evening. There's work tomorrow. Children are also resuming school tomorrow. Let's engage as much as we can. Thank you, Joy. I'm already connecting. Thank you, Nicholas. You're joining from Ghana. We're glad Okay, any moment from now, we'll commence. John is joining from Nigeria. Thank you for sharing your LinkedIn profiles. Please, let's connect with one another. This is Workplace Conversations. It's being convened by Nathan Leadgate, and we do this in collaboration with a number of our clients, partners, and stakeholders. Some of them include Afloat Energy, Cellular Resources Operations Limited, Sunlink Energies, Integrated Dairies, Starabel Logistics and Security Services, Man More Engineering, For Pulley, UHR Consult, Otaru Sourcing and Produce, AAO Salak, CIPM Nigeria, Chief Farms Limited, Greenfields Consultancy, Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria, Sever, Pendaxia, D Brown Consulting, People Plus Management Services, Counter House Consultants, Mikano Motors, Construct, and NAC Apparel, just to name a few. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about managing power and interest blocks in the workplace. And we're so delighted to have joining us today seasoned panelists. Our panelists, let me unveil them. Amazing people. On the left, our first panelist for today is Akintunde Akinwande. He's the head of digital for OCP Africa. Hello, Akin. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oludayo. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. We also have the lady on the call, Helen Ejaidu, ACIPM, SHRM, SP, LLM, LLP, LLB. She's head of HR and legal for Integrated Dairies Limited. Hello, Helen. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Doctor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me this evening. Thank you.
We have John Mote. John Mote is team lead, learning and consultancy for Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Hello, John. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
And then we have Nenaya Ugu. Nenaya is HRBP Sonic Energy and Resources Limited. Hello, Nena.
Hi, Doctor. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Great, great. So our conversation tonight will just be something I believe will add value to all of us. And the panelists are ready. I'm sure they are also very equipped with, references to share. Really, what are we talking about? Many of us may never have heard of what we call the power interest matrix. This framework is used to both identify and manage stakeholders. All of us on this call work in organizations where we have stakeholders, internal and external. And this matrix is one that helps you to know how to place your stakeholders and how then to manage them. The conversation today will be centered around managing these stakeholders. And I'll be inviting all our speakers to delve deeper into the subject matter of today. All of these stakeholders can be categorized into 4 using this matrix. You possibly will have some that are high power and high interest stakeholders. Some others may be high power, low interest stakeholders, low power, high interest, or low power, low interest stakeholders. You get to know more about this as we proceed in this conversation. At this point, I'd like to invite all my panelists to come on stage as we commence. Hello, panelists. Are you ready?
Thank you, Dr. Oludayo. We are here.
Thank you very much. All right. All my panelists are here. Everyone, can you just please clap and applaud all my panelists? I enjoy what I see here. If you see what I see, I love it. We have a mix of gender. We have a mix of, call it, we are Nigerian. We are not biased and tribalistic as the way it is. There's federal character here. But for Nicholas, we'll have gotten a Ghanaian to join us. All right. So the first question, Akintunde, I'll be going to you first of all. And maybe the same question will go to you and to all our panelists. The first question I want to ask you is, how exactly do you identify stakeholders in your workplace? What exactly do you do to identify stakeholders in the workplace?
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Oludayo. And once again, good evening to everyone. I'll dive deep into what we want to talk about. And I think the key thing in understanding the power and interest block is first to understand what power is and what interest is. I mean, it was a bit shocking for me too, the first time I heard about this, to say that, I mean, to think about the fact that two of them were different. We always felt that interest is built out of power. So why should it be different? Why would I have high power and low interest? Why would I have low interest or high interest and low power? But I think one key thing that I saw, I mean, in the difference is that one, power refers to the ability to influence. So first, there are people who have that ability to influence. And interest now refers, on the other hand, to the degree of attention or concern that a stakeholder has. The question, Dr. Oludayo, is how do you identify these stakeholders? And I think that there are key things. I mean, there are a lot of things. First is to understand where power and interest comes to play. Power is very important because the ability to influence needs to be there. But is it possible to have the ability to influence and yet, on the other hand, not have the degree of attention or what you call concern that the stakeholder needs to have? So in understanding both, you can bring that to play in now having a matrix of where your stakeholders are. And I think key things, I mean, have to apply. One is to recognize who those stakeholders are. And that's what the question is. How exactly do you find the people that you call stakeholder in an organization? One of the things I've discovered is that you need to define what power means to your industry. If I were in, so let me give an industry, for example. If I were in an industry that has to do with agriculture, for example, which I am in, when you are finding people with the ability to influence, yes, we define power in three, major aspects. We define power in authority, we define power in expertise, we define power in the ability to exert pressure. Let me take that again. The authority, expertise, the ability to exert pressure. But in your industry, having political will might be power, for example, because you're going to talk to people who are politicians or this or that. So it's important first to understand what power means to you. Interest can be general all across, but power means different things to certain industries. So it's important to understand in your industry, what does power mean to you? What does formal authority mean? How does that increase? How does someone build that authority? Or how is that authority assigned to the person? Two, what does expertise mean in this industry? How exactly do we rate who has higher expertise than the other? I work as a head of digital. So within the digital space, you find a lot of people who might have interest, but have no power. And that's also because there's a trend around technology. Everybody's saying AI. Everybody's saying, oh, I want to do this. But then it's important to have interest, right? But interest without power is usually not complete. So what it means is that in understanding your stakeholder in an organization or key players in an organization, you need to first define what power is in that organization, understand what interest and how you can measure interest, and then begin to rate people across board to see where they fit into that long list. I won't want to talk too long because I know we have other people who want to talk, but for me, basically, highlighting stakeholders is first understanding the uniqueness of the industry I work in, now being able to set what power means in my industry. to the detail, not just vaguely. What does power mean in my industry? Then interest. Yes, I can now measure interest. Interest becomes a lever. Oh, this person is very interested. That person is less interested. But I think one important thing is to understand what power means in that industry. And like I said earlier on, authority, expertise, ability to exert pressure. Thank you, Dr. D.
Evidently, you have been dealing with stakeholders and you know how to find them. Helen, tell me. I know you work with organizations across different strata. Can you tell me, how have you really identified stakeholders in your work?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for that question. And good evening once again, everyone. I'll build on what Mr. Akin has said. I'll try not to repeat the conversation around what power is, what influence is about, and interest and all of that. I work in the FMCG space. I think it's good to mention that so that we can also relate to the insights I'll be sharing on this call. Now, for us in the FMCG space, precisely my workspace, what we do is to first of all consider the structures you have in place. And by that, I mean the formal structure and the informal structure, right? So formal structure is represented in what you call your organizational structure. So you have your organizational structure that typically details the hierarchies in the business. You have the necessary senior business leaders clearly stated. You have the approving authority. You have the different departments. You have the senior stakeholders all clearly represented. Then again, you have the policy documents. You also have the standard operating procedures. Your policy documents will give you an idea of who has the power to approve what. So for instance, you have your board of directors, right? When you're talking about things around compensation and benefits, particularly when it has to do with the entire organization, your policy document is likely to tell you that, look, you have to go to your board to either get concurrence or get approval. You also have the standard operating documents where different departments have their processes, their policies clearly stated. And I'll use example of one of the departments we have in my organization, quality assurance. We produce farm fresh yogurt, by the way. Doctor, I hope that's no advert. Yeah. Okay. So in producing our product, we need to get all the licenses and the permits that we need. So if you have a department who is in charge of that, their standard operating procedures will typically tell them the regulatory bodies to engage, okay? So the formal structure represented in your organizational structure, your policy documents, your standard operating procedures would give you clarity on who the key players are, clarity on who your key stakeholders are. And tell you what, formal structures don't tell the entire story. That's where the informal structure comes into place, okay? And I will explain that shortly. Informal structure is largely based on interpersonal relationships. So in the workplace, you have people who are the go-to persons. And they are go-to persons because they have skills, they have expertise, they have specialized knowledge where people would defer to them, subject matter experts, if you like, when it comes to certain conversations. And they would want to hear what they have to say, right, before they take certain decisions. You have people who are connectors and bridges. Those ones are natural connectors. When it comes to forming relationship across departments, across different stakeholders, enabling sharing of information, those are people that are key players also that would help you when you want to take certain basic decisions. What about long-tenured employees? There are employees that have stayed in businesses for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. When it comes to historical knowledge and background of the organization, they are likely to have what it takes to influence decisions, to influence conversations. So basically, when you look at these two structures, the formal structure and the informal structure, you would not miss it in identifying your stakeholders, and decision making would be much more easier. Thank you very much.
Oh boy, what a night, what a night, what a night. This is going to be a very rewarding night. Nena, you are in the energy sector and there are stakeholders there. How do you find out who do you work with, who do you take serious and who do you not take serious?
Thank you very much. Without repeating what they've said, you know, for us, we work a lot with regulatory bodies. So it's not difficult for us to identify the people we work with. I remember while Helen was talking, she said that we don't need to say certain things so that we don't give out too much information. However, I know that when we talk about oil and gas, we know that we have a lot of regulatory bodies. So we have them structured. Recently, that's why this stakeholder management is quite an interesting one for me. So recently, we started categorizing our stakeholders because it's something we are really big on now. We've had issues with meeting roadblocks when we should have moved freely, you know. So what we've done is to start categorizing in this industry, everybody in the organization. For me, who and who is my stakeholders in HR, IT, who and who is your stakeholder, you know, we are categorizing and we are building our own affairs. So it's like a project ongoing with our external relations and all of that. So what we're doing is for each department, we are trying to identify who and who is our stakeholder, then we'll categorize. You know, I love this power matrix, even though that's not what we are using at the moment. We are just trying to say, is this one high risk? Is this one low risk? How much of these people do we need, you know, and all of that. So after categorizing all that, we now determine, which is ongoing, who and who we need, or who and whom we must pacify, you know, to enable us get all the approvals we need. And again, our coming internally too, I would like to approach it in 2 ways. Based on people's hierarchy, position, C-suits, we already know that these people are high stakeholders and they have the power, you know. Then we also know that there are some individuals on their own that have shown exceptional skills that put them in that position where they are stakeholders. They're always they're problem solvers, they're everywhere. You know, people are happy to have them in their projects because they know that once this person is in this project, we are making a move. So that is where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you. Which industry should I join now? Agri, FMCG, energy? John, maybe, I mean, you are the one that owns me now in professional services. Is there a different way we identify stakeholders in professional services, John? Okay. You are the head of learning for CIPM. How do you identify your own stakeholders?
Okay, good evening once again. For me, everyone interested in what we do by virtue of the service we render is seen as a stakeholder, right? And the categorization comes later, but then everyone interested in what we do, the service we provide, is seen as a stakeholder. So the reason is because from the nature of what we do, I've seen that the first contact may not actually be the person that needs your service. The first contact might be a springboard to another person that we need your service and give you that patronage, right? So for us providing professional service, or for me providing professional service, really anyone that comes to my space around what I do is seen as a stakeholder. I could start classifying later, but that is my first point of identification of a stakeholder. If you have called me to show interest in the offerings and what we do, automatically I see you as a stakeholder. You might not materialize now. You might materialize in the next 3 years, but then I still hold you as a stakeholder. So for the categorization, it comes over time, you know, and we begin to see that for my own sector is quite sensitive because someone we feel is low power, low interest today can be high power, high interest tomorrow, right? So because of that, anyone that comes at all, that comes in contact with our offering is seen as a stakeholder.
Amazing. Thank you, sir. You don't joke with anyone that comes across your way.
No.
Because the tables can turn in a second, right? Now that we have categorized them, thank you, everyone. I mean, thank you. I appreciate your thoughts. Now that we have categorized now that we have identified pathways to knowing who our stakeholders are. And I can thank you. I think that introduction you did was the work of the moderator that you did very well. Maybe next event you should be moderating. You seem to have the reservoir of knowledge that I lacked.
You know, that's not true.
Okay, well, I mean, we have people on the audience that can tell you. But the truth is, I like how you helped us to identify power, expertise. Helen also spoke about expertise. Nena spoke about expertise. I mean, and I like the perspective you all brought to bear. But now let's categorize this. Let's use this power interest matrix. Nena, forgive me for forcing you to use a matrix that you're not using at work. Possibly you have a second opinion. So when you're done with that work, tell them to call us. We can help you use power interest matrix. 5 of us on this call, we are experts in using power interest matrix to identify stakeholders. So we form Nena and Co enterprises. We will come and consult for Sonic Energies. Okay, so now let's use that matrix to categorize. And we will find out that there are 4 quadrants, those who have high power and high interests. And all of us here have done such categorizations before. High power, low interest, low power, low interest, low power, low high interest, and all of that. Now, my question to you is this, and let's start with you, Helen. Can you share a practical example of how you have related with someone in the category called high power, high interests? Someone in that category, how has your engaging such a key player led to a successful outcome? Because many of us on this call today really have a problem knowing how to really deal with some of these stakeholders. You know, somebody's high power, meaning, like Akin said, he has got authority. He has got influence. He also has high interest, meaning he's concerned about the outcome of your work. If somebody's in that category, how exactly should you be managing him or her?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. In responding to this question, I want us to first of all cast our minds back to 2023, precisely May 2023. I don't know how many of us remember the significant events that happened in that year. That was when fuel subsidy was completely removed, right? Yeah. So when that happened, a lot of persons in Nigeria found it very difficult to live. They were living from hand to mouth. You know, cost of living became really, really high. There was a data available at the time that said annual inflation accelerated by 22.79% in June 2023, which is said to be the highest compared to September 2005, 18 years later. So what that meant was there was a lot of hardship, economic hardship. It was impacting employees. It was also impacting businesses. And we looked at it as a department then, human resources, and we said to ourselves, what do we do to support the employees? Because it would seem as if the salaries were not even enough to meet basic needs anymore, right? Not to talk about secondary needs and all of that. We looked at it and we realized that it would be difficult for the business to increase salaries at the time because it wasn't just individuals that were being impacted. Organizations were also being impacted. A lot of businesses exited the stage at the time. Companies went into liquidation and all. So going to management at the time, executive management, to say, look, we want salaries increase was a big one at the time. So we looked at it and we said, okay, maybe there's something we could do to have a win-win situation. Why don't we have what we call COLA? That's cost of living adjustment allowance for the employees, in which case it won't be an element of salary. You won't have to increase salaries where you have other ancillary costs like pension, taxes and all of that. We thought about it, we went to the executive management and we had a conversation. After having the conversation with them, we tried to explain that, look, talents are your greatest assets. If you want to remain in business and be profitable, you need talent. And for your talent to be productive, they need to have the presence of mind. So when they're struggling with financial demands and all of that, it will be quite difficult for them to contribute value, add value to the business. We were lucky to get the approval of executive management. And the next hurdle was the board, right? Because this is something that required board approval. Remember initially when we were talking about identifying key stakeholders, we said, oh, you have the board of directors, you have senior stakeholders and all of that. So this is an increase or this is an allowance that would be for the entire employees, regardless of whether you're a high performer or not. So it's not driven by performance. Yeah. So being not driven by performance, it means the company will be spending money, right? So we went to the board committee, we had conversation, a bit of engagement here and there. And because they have high interest in the business needs to remain afloat, business needs to be sustained, profitability is important and all. They gave considerations and we got our approval. We're able to pay the allowance for slightly over 2 years for the employees, and there was a bit of stability within the space at the time. Thank you.
So what I hear you say is make a business case. Akin, can you add to that? How, in your own experience, have you managed those high stakeholders? And then I'm coming to you because you have been doing identification of the people that must leave the road. Give me chance, oh, I want to get my license. That's the song you're singing now. So, but Akin, let me ask you, those high power, high interest stakeholders, how are you dealing with them? Helen has said she makes a business case for everything she needs from them. In your own situation, how have you done it?
So these are very interesting people, very, very interesting people, because in every organization, those people with high power and high interest always tend to feel a sense of entitlement to every discussion. So one of the things I found out is that you don't put high power, high interest people together in one meeting room and you expect to get things done. It will never be done. So one of the things about high power, high interest people is that you work with them in blocks. You tend to focus on their blocks because, like John mentioned, I think it was John, I can't remember who mentioned, that it was John, that a high power, high interest person might not always be high power, high interest every day. All right? He might have been a low power, high interest person before that grew into high power, high interest. I want to add to what John said. Beyond the fact that people can grow, people can actually also function in roles in different segments. So you can have in one organization, when you talk about things related to finance, certain stakeholders become high power, high interest. Move that conversation to sales, and all of a sudden, that same stakeholder might become low power, high interest. All right? What I find with high power, high interest people is that, and that's why we need to understand power and interest. Power is something that can be worked on. So we talked about authority, we talked about expertise, we talked about exerting pressure. You can build some of those things. Interest, however, is something that comes innate to people. Interest is something that comes as a result of value proposition. So if I bring Muyiwa today and I say, Muyiwa, have this discussion about renewable energy.
Call me doctor.
Dr. Oludayo. Forget it's the high power, high interest. So if I bring Dr. Oludayo and say, I want you to talk about renewable energy, and it's an area that he has shown so much of interest in over the years. Tomorrow, I take him to another sector and I want it. And it might not just be value proposition to him at that point. So it might be low power and high interest at that point. So what I'm saying is, how do we identify and keep these people happy? One is to understand their strengths and the areas where they are most, because you can't just be a high power, high interest in everything. No, it's not possible. There will be areas where there are places of your strength. Your authority, like we say, cannot be in everything. Okay, so the MD of the company, sometimes on a lighter note, we've gone out certain times and maybe we're at the airport and he's not able to influence something at the airport. And he's wondering, these people don't know that I'm the MD of the company. And guess what? A logistics staff at the airport to get his ticket becomes high power, high interest because he gets there and he gets things done. So I think the first thing is to understand what area have the people shown the high power and the high interest. And just to round this up, interest is very, very important. I mean, if I have to recruit somebody between power and interest, I will recruit you for interest and I'll develop power. I know it's arguable, and I'm happy to have the speakers also argue this out. And here is why. Authority you can give. Expertise you can build by virtue of training. Will and all those things you can add one way or the other. Interest, as long as what you are bringing does not align with the person's value, you have lost that person forever. So if I bring somebody whose plan for the future is not renewable energy, and I put him in a renewable energy sector, he will struggle with interest no matter what I do. Yeah. He could have power because, okay, he's done that over the years. He's exerted authority in different things over the years. But because interest isn't there, you're going to struggle. So what I'm saying in essence is it's important to understand the sector where the people have the power. And then we can grow the interest. And then over time, we can learn to maximize their strengths. I think I want to stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. You manage them based on the domain of their strength. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nena, you've been doing this work so far. What's happening? What have you found?
We first clarify that we use the power matrix. So we use the power matrix. However, we are still at the level of categorizing. Let's even, identifying all our stakeholders. So we'll categorize them. So I'm not sure I need your services for now. Okay.
It's okay.
All right. So I want to allude to what Helen said initially. Before I'll give another example entirely different from what we've been saying. So given the first situation, like she mentioned, yeah, they went the route of increasing salaries. But probably what I felt would be a better sale for me was to introduce hybrid. We're already doing hybrid. We're doing 3 days in a week. But given that first situation, we suggested 2 days. And everybody's involved, both the high power, high interest, low, everybody will be involved, so we had to look for a day we feel used to be very difficult for people to commute, which is Mondays. We removed Mondays from our work and it was approved and everybody's happy. When people go to, yeah, I like that. When people don't go to work, the pressure on Monday is always too much. I know you mentioned that there's work tomorrow, schools are resumed, so there's tension. So just removing one Monday looks like, yeah, this will work. I know for 2 years or less, yeah, for about 2 years that worked, and that was fine. Then there's another example I'd like to give. I was engaged in a startup. The problem was productivity for them. And when I came in, I found out that the issue was because they were not having a lot of data. So I was going to introduce HRS system, which will help improve our data accuracy and remove all those routine works that slow people down. Now it will come with costs, So I was lucky to be reporting directly to the CEO at that time, who would directly report to the board. So it was easy for me to sell this. It wasn't an easy one for him to buy. But like Helen said, I made a business case. I let him know that once we automate all these things, even our payroll, they were working with Excel. With all the mistakes that could come with having payroll done on Excel sheet, even though, it worked for us for some time. But I pitched it in a manner that it was accepted. I had his buy-in. He went to seek approval. And before you know it, we had our HRS working and productivity increased, like work became seamless. Everybody was happy. Just impute it, do like this, and we have results. So if you have those people with high power, high interest, provided it's something that will bring a return on investment, it's not always difficult to buy in. Thank you.
Return on investment, ROI. John, that's one thing we always hear. Why do you want people to come for your training? You deal with high power, high interest stakeholders, internally and externally. I mean, your people who want to buy your services, not people like Nena. So people that want to buy your services are asking you that, what are we going to gain from, what will our people gain? You are selling us a training program. What are they going to gain? How do you really deal with them because our participants today are drawn from many walks of life. Some of them are in professional services, they are consultants, they provide services to clients, and their clients are wondering, why do you want to increase this service charge? Why do you want me to onboard my team members on this particular platform? These are key stakeholders, high power, high interest. How have you dealt with them?
Okay, so with respect to what I do in my organization, professional service, right? The truth is, we have a lot of people. In fact, there is something that there's a situation I'm currently managing at the moment, right? And it has to do with managing the interests of these stakeholders vis-a-vis the interest of protecting the business also. Knowing fully well that why I'm trying to manage the high power, high interest people externally, I still have people that I have to manage internally too, that are in that category of high power, high interest. So for instance, I satisfy a client that is high powered and has high interest. If I do that without carrying the internal people that they have high power and they have high interest also, it becomes difficult for me to get approvals for execution, right? So sometimes when we have to do with the values we are giving to the external, to the clients and everything, one thing I do is to, get an advocate, right? I get an advocate. An advocate also that belongs to that high power block and then can be a springboard. Because again, when I'm going with my business case, I'm not just going to say, we need to do this because of the clients and everything. I want them to see the potentials that the business can give. As well, I want the clients also to see what is the need for them if they do it and the place of compromise, right? So a practical example, a client was handed over to me by someone that is of high power, high interest. I have been told the threshold I can't go below. And talking to the client is saying, no, we can't pay for this service at this amount, right? And I've come back again to do my cost analysis, and I see that the threshold that has been given to me, I can't cross that threshold. I will never get approval to cross that threshold. Now, the external customer that is high power, high interest called the internal high power, high interest. The guy is not ready to do this and this. And that one called me. Said, what happened? This person complained, I gave you this, this person complained that you are not doing that. But this is the situation on ground, right? This is what we have to do. And the next thing the person internally will tell me is that go and manage the situation. That's the reason why, that's the burden of office. Go and manage the situation, right? So, but the place of advocacy came when I had to involve someone that is also part of the internal team with high power, also high interest. To say, see, I need another voice. Probably my voice is not strong enough. I need another voice to speak. To say, we have two cases here. We can either let this person go and have issues of business continuity with that person. We need to close that market. And we can actually win the person over. And with time, with values and everything, we begin to, see each other as business partners, right? So when I have to push the advocate, I have to push for the advocate, and I have the person to please help interfere in the matter, because now I am being thrown in the middle. You are referring someone to me. You have given me the threshold that should not cross. I am trying to stay within that threshold. The person is giving a report back that this person is proving difficult, is not ready to come to term. And you called me to query me. I give you the instance, I give you what the conditions are. You're not telling me, go and manage. That's the burden of office, right? So I got the advocate. So when we got to that level, we had to sit together. And what I did, was just to do a cost-benefit analysis. If we do this is where we will land. It will be of interest to this person, it will be of interest to that person. And we had to engage the person in a meeting to say, okay, look at it. Will you take this? We compromise on this. Can you compromise on this? We arrive at a favorable point. You gain with this, you win this, we win that. So presenting a win-win solution, right? Because I also know that the person that is the external customer that has high power and high interest will tell you tomorrow, I will never bring anything close to you again. And you don't also know where that person will be living for tomorrow. You are dealing with that person within this organization today. Tomorrow, the person may go to a bigger organization. And if he has blacklisted you in his heart, he has blacklisted you. Oh, don't bring this person. Don't bring this people close to you.
That's what Akin was saying, because their domains will change.
Their domains will change.
And so you must be careful not closing them out on one particular domain, thinking that they will not have influence in another domain.
So most of the times, what I just try to do is to make them see some wins in some things. Okay, you can win in this area. Why don't we do it this way so that it will save you some cost here? And we do it this way so that it will also save us some cost here. And before you know it, we're able to execute, right? So I think I would like to stop there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and I like the perspective. Thank God we are not bringing people from the same organization or the same industry. It has helped to see how you all deal with it. I'm writing here, even though we're taking notes on the call, but I'm still taking my own notes here because the insights are great. Akin is domain specific. Akin said, the way I manage my high power, high interest stakeholders is that I want to know in which domain they are thriving. The domain they are thriving determines where I want to pay attention to. Helen says, I make a business case. Nena said, I show them the ROI. John is saying, I use advocacy. Let me come back to you, Helen. I don't know if Helen is still there. Helen, let me come back to you.
Yes, I am.
People who are in the category of high power, they have got high power, but they have low interest. They are not as, like Akin helped us to define all these concepts earlier on. They are not so concerned about your work, but they have a great authority over that work. They are not so concerned, but they have great authority. Your board members, for example, they are not so concerned about your, call it tissue, the use of your stationaries in the office. It's not their business, but they have got great authority. Tell me one time, can you share an experience where you failed to manage people who have high power and low interest? They have high power, low interest. On a particular matter, when did you fail? At what point did you ever have an experience of failing to manage such people?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for that question. I would share an experience, but it's not one related to our board, really, right? Now, for the stakeholders that are in that particular quadrant, which is high power and low interest, they wield significant influence, but they are not really so much invested in your outcomes. There was something that happened sometime last year. Given our industry, we're very big on regulatory matters. We do not do with things like that at all. Where we need to get permits, we get the permits. Where we need to get approvals, we get the necessary approvals. But interestingly, we had a particular agency, right, working with us in managing our social media platforms. Unfortunately, there was a permit that they were meant to get, or approvals rather, from ARCON. That's the arm, in charge of advertising, regulating advertising. But unfortunately, that particular approval was not obtained. So what we received was a document from ARCON saying that we failed to obtain the necessary approvals, and we had adverts on Facebook, some other social media platforms, and they asked us to take it down. There was also the fine part of it as well. That's the sanction. So we quickly went into a meeting with the agency to say, look, what's going on? What we usually do is to have engagements with them to say, look, if you're going to be a third party working with us as an organization, whatever approvals you need to get, whatever permits you need to get, you must ensure that you get those permits and approvals, just so that we do not have any issues with authorities that have oversight functions. But for some reasons, they were not aware, which was actually very shocking for us. Two things we did. The first one was, first of all, to manage the regulatory authorities, right? And resolve whatever issues we had in the space at the time, because we had very good track records with them, NAFDAC, the likes of SON, Nesria, and all. It was easy to manage that particular issue. And straight away, we had to end that retainership. I mean, you know why, it goes without saying. If you're not able to get all the necessary approvals and what you need to do your work, then you can't work with us. We had to end that particular relationship. So basically, you would see that that is a regulatory authority. They have very high power, right? But they are not as invested. Now, if you don't manage stakeholders within that particular quadrant properly, there are certain potential risks that you could have managed, mitigated, or even avoided entirely, which would cause roadblocks for your business. And that would be a major step back. So that was a challenge that happened very recently. I mean, it was in the last quarter of last year. It was so serious that we had to even bring in senior leaders in the business to also have conversation, because reputation is also important for us. We don't want anything around reputational risk, reputational damage, and all. So I would say to my colleagues and all professionals on the call that when you see stakeholders or you identify a stakeholder as high power but low interest, you need to be very careful in managing them, because if you do not manage them tactfully and carefully, you are likely to run into avoidable issues, which would affect or impact your business in the long run. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. This meeting is very rich. Very rich. I mean, who would have thought that the regulator could be high power and low interest? You know, I like that perspective you just said. Akin, let's hear. Yes, go ahead, Ellen. Close out on.
I was going to add to that as well, that sometimes you have an overlap. There are certain regulatory authorities that can also be high power and high interest. So I'll give you an example. NAFDAC, Standard Organization of Nigeria. For my organization, they are high power and high interest. High power in the sense that if you don't get the necessary approvals and permits, you can't roll out certain products because you need those approvals to be able to work. The interests are also there because they have expectations. Compliance is important for them, right? They have expectations. They need to ensure compliance happens in that space. So those category of critical regulators would come under that particular quadrant. But for the advertising agency, they are high power, however, low interest, because the level at which they are invested is not as high as that of NAFDAC and SON. I just thought to also bring that in, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Akin, you are the encyclopedia on power and interests. So these people who have high power and they have low interests, what damage can they do?
Actually, they are the most dangerous of all the set. I can say that clearly. Because they have an asset that has the capacity to destroy if you don't add interest to it. Now, I remember when Ellen was saying regulatory bodies. Interestingly, Doc, regulatory bodies in Nigeria, maybe because of the government factor, mostly high power, low interest. Mostly high power, low interest. Because it's like saying the policeman you meet on the road. When the man stops you and you're going for a meeting, he has extremely high power, but he has no interest in listening to what you have to say. I was showing someone a medical report once. They were asking me for my tinted windows. And I was showing, and he said, Oga, say what you want to talk. My own, I say, head of whatever said that this, and you must pay us. Now, why do we need to manage these people? And I'll give you an instance that I had to play. Before my role as head of digital, I was head of business development for the same company. And part of my functions included partnerships. So as a corporate company that was coming from the angle of, okay, yeah, we're a corporate organization coming out of Morocco and all that, I was talking to someone who was a head of a developmental organization, you know, the likes of IFDC, something like that. I wouldn't want to mention the organization, but a developmental organization, a non-for-profit, and he was the head of the organization, and we needed to partner together. What I found out was that our first few meetings brought nothing out. We could not succeed in getting his level of interest. But yet we needed this person because power rating was high up the roof. Now, what I found out, I'll put in 3 angles. First is to understand his value proposition. Someone who has high power and low interest, it is not regular that you have high power and low interest. Automatically, once you build your power, your interest should grow. But what we have is because on that particular segment, you have not defined a correlate or a correlating value proposition. You are not talking in his language. He's not hearing you because you are saying A and he's thinking B. So I think the first thing, and this was what I did with this person. In fact, by the way, he wasn't even Nigerian. So the first time I had to meet him, I had to meet him outside office. I just told him, let's meet somewhere and let's sit down. Now, in discussing with him, I found out that he had certain reservations to Moroccan companies. And here I was speaking to this man about a wonderful idea, explaining charts, business case, value proposition. He wasn't listening. But you see, the moment we were able to deal with his reservation and make him comfortable, the next thing I said is, we're a Nigerian company. While not totally divulging myself from my Moroccan parents, technically, but saying that, we are in Nigeria. The benefit is to Nigerians. When he heard that, that was talking in his own level of value proposition. So we're on the same level. That's 1. 2, what are the interest triggers? Everyone has what triggers your interest. Some people might be social engagements. Some people they like meetings. Some people will have meetings for the sake of just meetings. Some like just discussions and you do things. So understanding that. And then finally, what is his channel of communication? So understanding those 3 things helped break that ice down. And eventually we're able to have one of the best partnerships that I had in that role. But it was important to understand, and I reiterate this, that power is important. But you see, those with high power and low interest are actually the riskiest to handle because they have in themselves the power to get it done, but the interest to destroy everything, the low interest to destroy everything. So basically, that's an example of one of the situations I had to handle.
Thank you so much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you are enjoying the conversation. We've just spent about an hour. We do not intend to use 2 hours here. We do not intend to use up to 2 hours. So we're going to be mindful of our time. But I want to just know in the chat, if you are really enjoying this conversation, is there some value that you're getting from it? Is there some value you're getting from this conversation? Let me know, please. Very insightful. Thank you, Oredola. Thank you. Very insightful. Is there any other value you're getting from it? Anyone? Esther Adeyonju, I see you. Thank you for joining this call. Benjamin Dachomo, thank you. Benga Ajayi, thank you. You've always been here for our events. Thank you. So good to have you. Omolade Durotoye, thank you as well. It's eye-opening. That's very, very eye-opening. And I'm grateful that these panelists agreed to be here. There's great value from them. All right, as we go on to the next round of questions, which will be the final round as the case is, I'd like to bring you some news. For us, as we convene the workplace survey and workplace conversations, we always want to prepare for the future. We want to prepare for the future. And one of the things that we're doing to prepare for the future is to run a survey. We're asking everyone on this call we're asking everyone on this call to please join us to participate in this survey. We have two classes of surveys, the one for graduates and the one for those of us responsible for hiring. What do we want to do? We want to really ask ourselves, are the graduates or the new entrants into the workplace, are they really ready for the workplace? Are they ready for the workplace? What are the universities or higher institutions doing to prepare them for the workplace? What are the employers looking for that they don't find? And so in the chat right now, my colleague is dropping the links in the chat. Please, we will desire that you help us take that survey. You can click on the link right away. After the call, you can go ahead and take the survey. I'll retain it there. I'm going to go to to Nena now. Nena, where are you? Are you still here? Hello, Nena. Are you still there?
Yes, I am. I'm here. I'm here, yes.
I'm going to ask you and John to talk about those who are in the low power. They don't have power, but they are very interested in your business. They don't have ability to influence anything. They don't have authority. They don't have expertise. All those indices that Akin gave us at the beginning. They don't have authority. They don't have ability. They cannot exert any pressure. But you see, they are interested in your matter. How do you deal with this set of people? Have you seen instances where individuals from this category influence decisions? Have you seen instances where people that don't have power, but they have high interest? Have you seen instances where they influence key decisions? I'd like to hear from you. Maybe the ladies first. John, let's allow the lady go first.
Okay, with this one, I will not even talk about external stakeholders. I would like to, because while I was thinking through, I just looked at employees as this kind of people, and that's the example I would like to give. Really, the end users, most of the time, they have low power, but they have high interest. There's an organization I worked with. Our plant was then, it's also an oil and gas, was at Takwa Bay. Very unserious example, but you will gain a lot from this. So our plant is at Takwa Bay. So we moved them with, oh, sorry, I need to put on my videos. All right. So we moved them from Lagos. I think that place, they call it free trade zone. So they don't move, there's no road, we go by water, right? So after some time, they started complaining about feeding. There's no lights in Ogogoro village. There's no internet. So if you are going to build a plant there, you have to make it, bring it alive, bring everything that will make you stay alive there. And that's where we had our plant. So when these people complained, it came to me, of course, and I went back to have a conversation. I made a business case, like we mentioned earlier, and we decided to be providing lunch. I know the beautiful aspect of this. We are now not going to only provide lunch for them at Takwa Bay. We made it a company-wide stuff. So everybody in the company enjoyed free lunch, because these low power people with high interest made a request, and we took it up, and it was weighed, and they feel like, wow, we can do this. So we all benefited. So probably the people approving also found out that this thing would benefit us in the long run. And when I tell people that they give us lunch in the office, it feels somehow, because we had a lot of expatriates too. So people at the back office were also gaining. So at times you can also have people at the low power with high interest, making things happen for everybody in the organization.
Because they can be spoilers. John, what's your experience?
Yes, yeah, they can.
Mute. Okay, thank you. So I have seen a whole lot of people in that quadrant, right? In that particular category, rather. The truth is that these people they can be spoilers, especially if you have the voice of majority springing up from that group of people. I will give a practical example or two examples, right? First, where I work currently, we had a training for some people in public sector, right? Now, obviously, the training was beyond them. It was something that was actually approved, that the conversation started at a very high level from the people, high power, high interest people. That's where the conversation started. So they don't have any say with respect to. But I realized that their experience serves as a feedback for continuity. And knowing also that, again, power does not rest with one person. One day, the person you think is your strong connect there could leave. Another person will come. So last year, we had trainings for some people, and we had to take them outside of Lagos and the likes. The organization actually paid for a particular package for them, and we had to stick with it. And we saw that these people, when I looked at the class dynamics and I saw the people there, just realized that they were junior, a mix of junior cadre and middle cadre. And we were there was a kind of experience they wanted to have, really, that they were not having. And it's not as a result of my fault or the fault of my organization that I work for, but it's the fact that training has been approved for them for over 4 months. They've given them their ESTA code, they've given them their transport money for over 4 months, but they've not scheduled them for the training. So they scheduled them for the training a month to our own execution of the training, why they collected the allowance like 4 months ago. So they spent all. Coming for the program, they've spent all their money on school fees, they've even blown the money. Coming, and they told me, okay, we cannot stay here for 2 weeks, so we don't have money for accommodation again. We have spent all our money, we have spent all this and everything. So the interest for them was that anything you could do to give them certificate to snap, just to show presence that they have come for the training, and let them go. And next year, they are sure that anytime they mention the name of your organization, they will say, yay, we want to go there for training. No. So at the point I was at the verge of making some decisions, I said, okay, so what cadre are these people? Very junior cadre. What influence do they have? The training is coming from. But I have told myself something, that these people also will go back to the organization. And if all of them keep saying the same thing, we had a bad experience, we don't want to go there again, the next thing that will happen is that the high power, high interest people, externally, we call the high power, high interest people in my internal space to have the conversation. No, we gave you this. Look at what the people are saying. No, now they were the one that said this and the likes. So those people are very, very destructive. So what we needed to do, to understand, is to look at the place for soft landing. I said, okay, training must not be in the physical space. Let me call a middleman that is also high-powered, high interest.
It looks like that's your cheat code. Always using advocacy and leverage.
So I called, I said, what will be the risk if we convert this session to a virtual session so people can? I said, in as much as on the certificate, you won't put virtual, but then this, that. So I said, okay, let's see how we can accommodate it such that people have spent their money. We want them to come back next time. We want them to still learn. So we put some housekeeping rules. You must attend this, you must do this, you must do that. And I realized that there are people that have family members that they could stay with. So they said they are not going back. Some of them said they are not going back, that the organization paid. So they want about 2 or 3 of them out of like 20, 25. They said, no, our organization paid for this, for us to stay for 2 weeks. So we want to be coming. Other people say, larger percentage said, we cannot be coming because we don't have the money to continue paying for accommodation and hotel feeding and the likes. The smaller percentage said, okay, if that be the case, they'll be coming to the office to have their training. We'll give them food, we'll give them water, we'll give them this, and just about 3 of them said they want to do that. Where do I want to get the approvals? So say, okay, I'm calling a facilitator to come physically to speak to only 3 people, and they'll be streaming. So they are very, very destructive. And they said, I'm going to call I'm going to call the office to tell them that you guys are not doing the training and the likes, but already I've engaged with their coordinator to say, this is what is on ground. How best do we need to manage this? And I also need to tell them that, see, because they've been assigned to go for training for 2 weeks, because of what is happening, we have decided to make it a virtual training. What is the cover in the place of risk? Peradventure, if some of them decide to use that 2 weeks, of course, that 2 weeks, they won't go to the office. They want to play around. And if anything happens to them, maybe they are kidnapped on the way or any form of accident, they will say, you were supposed to be a so organization within this period for training. So how come you were found in this location and this happened to you? So they are low power, but they have very, very high interest. I want the business to keep coming, you understand? But we needed to see how to manage them in such a way that I had the buy-in of their coordinator. I had a chat with the coordinator to say, can we agree on this together, right? Even at a point, he also was quite diplomatic, not wanting to give his word and everything. So I pushed them back to their coordinator to say, you know what, I'm willing to do whatever you want. Let your coordinator just communicate. I'll do whatever you want, right? And that was how we got the win-win, victory. The second one, sorry, sir, a driver actually sent a branch manager where I worked before, a branch manager from Lagos to Kano. Incident happened on Friday. Branch manager had to resume in Kano on Sunday. What happened? Yes, the driver, low power, but high interest in the way he's being treated within the branch. When I submit my expense ticket, pay me immediately. Don't question. I've done the work. So one of the days, weekend, he used to go to the high power, high interest people to discuss, to work for them, drive them. So, sometimes also people that are of high power, high interest, we ask people that are of low power, high interest, some questions that, what do you say about this, please? What do you say about that? What do you say about this? And that's how the guy spewed. And the person, high powered, high interest person said, what do you want to be your recommendation? He said, for the sake of business, it's best that man is removed from that place, because this thing we are saying is affecting a lot of things, a lot of people. And I can give you people in my cadre that have the same complaint. So they had to put call across, and everybody was saying the same thing. And it was a branch where they control things in billions. So the next thing they had to do, before this man makes a bullion driver run away with a van, you understand? Let us transfer him. And the guy got a letter weekend.
Ogala.
Flight was on Sunday, resumed in Kano on Monday. And that's what happened.
Yeah. I've been in now. Ogala. It has gone.
Ogala. The example is really interesting,
honestly. Amazing. Yeah. Can I have all my speakers come? Let's take the last question so that we can try to wrap up now.
Interesting.
We will try to wrap up now. I'm so grateful that we have had very good conversation, and I'm thankful to the participants also. They've stayed in for this long. There's one more category, and it's a category that we often overlook. Low power, low interest. I don't have power, I don't have interest. There are people like that we work with. They are still stakeholders. So my question to you is this. How have you managed these kinds of people? And have you seen any one of them move from low power, low interest to a more influential role within the organization? 40 seconds, each one of you, please. 40 seconds, each one of you. Let me start with the lady. I don't know where Helen is, but Nena, let's start with you. Have you seen low power?
Helen is here.
Yeah, because as John was talking, an example was coming to my mind, working with maybe even Helen should have such example, especially people that work with people that work in factory or in a site. You have it. So when it comes to low power, low interest, majority of them are end users. They are employees, people that don't even think so much about. So like the example, John, you had a similar story. That's why I could relate. There's this guy that used to drive one of our expatriates in a previous organization. They bought, I think, treadmill. They were trying to build the gym house where we're staying. So they tried to fix this, so many gym equipment, and they could not. He stayed up all night with the manual and he fixed them. By the time the expatriates came in the morning, they were amazed. Like, he did this. They sent a letter to me that they want him at the site. I'm talking about a driver that doesn't have even secondary school certificate. His GP and SSC, he did not complete. But that was their request, and they were bent on that. I discussed with my boss at the time. He said, no way. It was a battle. Said the only way they can even accommodate him, maybe he should go and write SSC, let him even have GC or something, But most of those expatriates, most of them, there's something they call QBE, qualified by experience. They don't have certificates the way we have it a lot in Nigeria. Yes, it was my first time anyways. You have like 20 people, 15 are qualified by experience. So that certificate thing we're preaching was not making any sense to them. These guys sat up throughout the night, he saw the gym equipment, and you say we don't need him at the site. They made a case, they pushed it up to the MD, who is also I think he's an American butch, God bless him, so he's late now. I had to go and appeal to my boss. I said, and they were not taking him there as a how will I call it? They were taking him there to be a supervisor. So for a role he has not even gone through, he now wants to be, they say he will be the charge hand or something. They gave him a role and he got it. So he just moved from that low interest. He didn't fix that thing because he was anticipating anything. He just did it out of his, I could do this just to make them happy. And that triggered something. And that's how this became as supervisor. His salary went from maybe 50,000 that time to, he got it. He was asked to go and write WIEC. He never passed until I left the organization. But it became almost unimportant, really, because at that point he was working and he was doing well. So yes, you can see people move from that cadre to, depends on how they apply themselves.
Yeah.
And it depends on the project at hand.
Qualified by experience. Nigeria
qualified by experience, yes.
Aki, what's your thoughts on
that one? We like.
Thank you so much, Nena. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I've had cause to deal with one. And I'll talk about what happened in the 1 year. So I had somebody who was serving in my organization with me for about a year. A Gen Z, by the way. So you can imagine, interest is already low. For the Gen Zs on board, please forgive me. But what happens with a lot of that? I think, Doctor, we might need to have a session called encouraging or building the workplace fit for Gen Zs. So what I found out is that he came with very little interest. And for
I'm inviting you, sorry, sir. I'm inviting you for our pre-conference training. We have a topic on that.
He will happily come. It's not because the interest was not there. It's because there were other things that are struggling for that interest. Number one is phone, social media. So he gets to the office place and something is distracting. So how did it work? And this guy left after 1 year, a totally different person. three things changed, and I'll just talk about those three things. One, we were able to build his expertise over 1 year, meaning knowledge transfer, a lot of knowledge transfer. Sometimes it works with reading, sometimes it works with experiences. So you need to build knowledge because power is a function of knowledge. So help him build his knowledge, he gets a lot more power to show. Number two, elevate authority. Elevate authority does not necessarily mean he becomes the total, but he becomes the chief in his area. So for example, somebody comes to me and says, I need something done. And I say, no, go back to my lovely Gen Z. He is the one, it's his authority. Whatever he says gets done. So the moment you give that authority, he tends to think, okay, yes, I might not have power to determine salary. That's too big. I mean, that's bigger than me. But this area, I do have power there. And then lastly, find ways, what I would call lowering their ginger, because he comes with a lot of strength.
Yeah.
All right. You can rechannel that strength and that expertise or that exuberance into the kind of thing that he wants to do. So if you put it into what he has, so you need to find out what his interests are and put it into it. So that's an example of somebody who came with low power, low interest, that I could say interest increased. Maybe power absolutely did not increase, but at least in the area of his direct supervision, power increased. And of course, by the time power increased, interest also built. So the rating or concern about the job. Now, almost immediately, I found somebody who was quick to come to my office. And sir, you said this. How is it done? Oh, sir, how do I get this done? Oh, sir, somebody said this. I have gone ahead. And so he started showing level of responsibility. Not just saying, what do I do? But this is what I have done. And I've been able to do this. And he was very proud to come and say, I've done this, I've done that. So it encouraged within that period. Let me stop there.
We need to end this meeting, but I'm so happy that we have done very well. Helen, tell me, low power, low interest. Low power, low interest. What have you seen? What's your experience with low power, low interest stakeholders?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, and thank you everyone on the panel for your contributions. I'll just add something a bit different to it, right? Very interesting example. You know, when Nena spoke earlier on, she talked about employees at that KIDA, blue-collar workers. We had this person come in as an ad hoc employee, you know, low interest, low power, really no power in terms of taking decisions and all of that. In terms of interest, they are not as invested as well. But along the line, because the employee was able to work, perform, add value, they got some promotions and all of that, and got to another quadrant, which is low power, high interest. And I'll talk about employees at the mid-level. Yes, you know, low power, high interest. So you see somebody coming as an ad hoc employee, really without any so much power, no power at all, no interest, or at the low level. And the interesting thing that happened in the course of the person's career journey is they were able to transit to the very first important quadrant, which is high power and high interest. How did that happen? The person emerged as a union chairman, you know, in the FMCG space. Yeah. In the FMCG space, you have unions, right? We also have one within our space. And I usually tell people that leadership is about influence. Now, somebody comes in as an ad hoc employee without so much, without the ability to influence anything in terms of decision making, but what was able to work and perform in such a way that they add value to the business. So they earned their promotions and they climbed the ladder. By the time they got there, they were able to also influence their peers. You know, the 360-degree leadership kind of thing, right? Upwards, downwards, sideways, and all of that, and inwards. So they earned that trust of their union members, and he emerged as a union chairman. Now, under the high power, high interest metrics. Because I mean, we all know that with union representatives, they go into all of those collective bargaining, talking about work conditions and all. And if you don't listen to them and engage in such a manner where it's a win-win situation, you can have strikes and all of those actions that would impact your business. And nobody really wants that, not even at times like this. Thank you.
Mm. Oh my, oh my. Power to the people. Solidarity forever. John, last word on this. Low power, low interest. What have you seen?
Okay, so I'm going to talk, permit me to talk from internal perspective and external.
In 30 seconds, if you can.
Okay, so for internal, I've once had an experience where I worked before, right, where nobody was willing to be posted. Security guys are not willing to be posted to a particular location, because they feel that there is nothing in it for them there than staying in the gates where they can salute customers and then make, So what happened then was that we had to create some kind of incentive for them and make that place very, very interesting for them. Number one was that we had to tell the staff that they'll be working with directly that you have to include these people in the process. Make them as see them as part of the team, not as security guys, right? Bring them together, let them see your work as their own work. And we created an incentive around that, right? That for each day you come there, you share from the goodies that we have within the department. Also, you have a token to go with, right? And all of a sudden, we realized that they started fighting for that same slot. To say, no, it's my turn to go there. It's my turn to go there. I am there. No, I did not. In fact, sometimes the first thing we realize that when we post them there, they'll just come sit. They feel it's time for them to relax, so they sleep. The essence of putting them there is, so you give them, okay, you know what, when any client, when any customer comes in, you're the one that will register, you're the one that will do. So when a customer comes in and they want to come to staff, so you know, you have to attend to that security man have to attend to you first. So to them, also attending to customers, okay, you have to sign, or you have to fill this in and sign. No, nobody here can attend to you. You understand? And also with respect, we tell the customer, please, that's one of the functions of the security guys. If it does not go through that process, we cannot execute your own transaction, right? So just, listen. Sometimes also customers are so edgy to say, no, I won't listen to a security guy, right? But the fact that you are still able to bring the customer to do what the security guy initially said the customer should do, you understand? Even if you are going to do it for for the customer yourself, the fact is that the word of the security guard still counted for the fact that that process must be carried out. That's one. So externally, so let me talk about the external perspective. So externally,
are you using 30 seconds, right? You're still using 30 seconds?
Okay, so let me stop here.
No, go ahead. Say it. Just say
okay.
it.
Okay. So for externally, we've seen people low interest and low power. And what I've tried to do, especially when you are trying to push for some kind of business, and then you have to go through probably the secretary or the PA, and not secretary, but someone that for reasons you cannot explain, because we deal with a lot of people in the public sector. For reasons you cannot explain, that person cannot be queried. For reasons you cannot explain, the person decides when to submit your proposal and when not. So what I've tried to do in that space, or what we've tried to do in that space, is to first get the contacts of these people, have informal conversations with them. I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. What would be your advice? I want to send this. When do you think I should send it? When can you help me send it and everything? Oh, I'm in Abuja now. I just said them to come and greet you. Let's just, and you realize that those things alone, that level of relationship alone, just makes it difficult for them to say no to you, because also they are spoilers. The low power, the low interest people, they are spoilers. They are not willing to do anything. They don't have power to do anything. They don't have interest in anything. And because of that, also, whatever you're bringing to them that is of interest to you can be a flop also. So, just having that advocacy with them, going to them, calling them, what will be your contribution? I want to do this. What are your What is your stand on it? How can I go about this? I'm sending this letter now. I'm sending this proposal now. What will be your input? What do you think we can add together and everything? And when we are having that meeting, the first thing, again, after recognizing the high and mighty, recognize them. So I want to thank this person for, she has been always following up. I've been having a conversation from the back end and everything. Oh, that makes them so happy. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. I think we should give a round of applause to all our panelists. Thank you so much. And I mean, all participants, please, if you can, wherever you are, use the emoticons and just let's applaud all our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Panelists applauding panelists, that's a good one too. I mean, I am saying thank you to you. It's been so rich, a rich conversation, a rich conversation. But we want to hear now from the participants. But just before then, there's a poll I want everybody to participate in. I'm going to launch the poll now. You'll see the poll on your screen. It will come up on your screen just right away. Nod if you can see this, if you can see the poll. Just help me nod. You can. Can you please take this poll, everyone? Please help take the poll. Let's see how many of you can participate. Taking this poll. Then for the participants, we'll be able to take 2 or 3 questions from you. 2 or 3 questions from our participants. And then we will close with a 1-minute wrap-up from each of our panelists. I've got everybody's cheat code here. Akin, when I was writing my cheat code, I wrote it down. And then when I looked at what you sent to me, it's looking like the same. Then I realized that we were raised from the same place.
Permit me to unmute and laugh.
We were raised from the same place. I mean, you need to see my notes. I wrote something in my note here, right? And when I looked at what you texted, I said, this man and I were thinking on the same frequency. I'm not just
he read my notes.
Amazing. Okay, so nobody has completed the poll yet. I want to thank everybody for joining. Ayomide Togbe, thank you for being here. BA, thank you. David Olojo, thank you. Esther Jugbenga Ajayi, thank you. 2 people have completed the survey. Thank you for submitting. Friday Todo, thank you for joining. Joshua's iPhone. We want Joshua. We don't want Joshua's iPhone. Joy Samuel, you've been the most active participant today. Thank you also for joining. Juna, thank you. All your emoticons are working. King Nicholas from Ghana, I hope you are still there. Thank you. Kunle Elibird, thank you for joining. Omolade Durotoye, thank you as well. Omolola, thank you. Samuel Taiwo, thank you for being there. Timitayo, rooting for your head of HR. You have to be here. Why not? TSA, thank you also for joining. Tosin Shuboyede, thank you. Vu, my friend Vanessa, thank you also for being here. I'm grateful for your attention. 8 of 23 people, only 34% have participated. We want more numbers. Would you please help us respond to the survey? I'm going to show the results very, very soon. Let's see what people are using as the most effective method for identifying key stakeholders. Yes, it was a great session. Thank you, Kunle. It was a great session. More people are attending to the survey. Thank you very much. We want more people to respond. Only about half of us have taken the survey now. The number is increasing, it's going to about 60%. What a day. I don't know who else will have been able to pull all this heavy weight on a night before work, a night before school resumes. Only Olumuyiwa and Nathan Leadgate and Workplace Conversations team could do that. And I do not take it for granted, honestly. I do not. I feel so honored. I wish we had known that there was school resuming tomorrow. We possibly would not have chosen this day. But thank you for honoring all the same. I mean, I'm sure that we're going to do better things together. Just a little bit more responses from the people. We have spent about 3 minutes taking this survey. We have 63% of the participants have responded. Can you try to complete, Juna? Complete your survey. Complete it, complete it. TSA, have you done it? Omolade, have you done the survey? Panelists can also take part of the survey. You did not set the question. Helen, I can sense your answer in the survey. I think you did. Survey is also a member of the legal team. I mean, Juna is also a member. I said Survey. Juna is also a member of the legal team in Integrated Dairies Limited. Temitayo, a member of the HR team from Integrated Dairies. They came to support their madam. Aki, I'm sure your colleagues are here. I just don't know them.
Yeah, one of them came, but she had to leave.
Okay,
also.
It's night time. She's preparing for school tomorrow. John, I can see your team members are here. Even your PRO, your head of communications is here. She's going to report it in the news tomorrow in the office. Esther, thank you for joining. We have 70% of the participants already taking the test, the survey. I just need to hit 75% and I will close it because of the time. We had planned to not max out 2 hours on this call. And we are doing very well with the time. Maybe 1 or 2 more persons have not taken the assessment. Maybe you cannot even see it. I'm hitting 73% now. Maybe if 2 or 3 more people take it, I'll cross 75. That'll be good for me. That'll be good. That'll be good. Maybe 2 or 3 more, and that'll be good. We've spent 5 minutes already taking the survey. And here I'm about to release it. 78% already. Thank you. I've crossed my mark. 82%. These are the last to submit. When they say submit, they say one more minute. Excuse me, sir, 1 more minute. That's what you are doing. When they say pens up, that's when you remember that you have to submit something. All right, pens up, and down. All right, the poll is ended. Let's see the results. Can you see the result on your screen? Can you see the results? Which method do you find most effective for identifying key stakeholders? People say it here, executive mapping. Executive mapping. That seems to align with Akintunde's thoughts. Executive mapping. And it's followed closely by internal surveys, checking in from within. Where do they belong? Second question. Which stakeholder category typically present the greatest challenge to manage? High power, low interest. They have got power, but they are not interested in the work. They'll just be they'll be bullying you, quote and unquote. They are the bullies in the organization. That's what I hear you all say here. That these people, they are not interested in the work, but because they have power, they can do and undo. So that's the greatest category. The category that is the greatest to manage. It has the greatest challenge to manage. Great. The third question here says, how often should key players ideally be engaged during a project life cycle? All of you said, majority of the people here said, as needed, as occasion demands, do as occasion serve thee. And final question, what is your preferred channel for maintaining engagement with stakeholders that you are keeping? Majority of you have said email. And I think the reason is this. You want to have record of the conversations you're having with them. You want to keep a record so that it's not my word against your word. It's not my word against your word. And I think it's very essential. What I can tell the participants on this call is, right after this, please look out for the article. There'll be a video of this session, which will be released on our YouTube channel. The panelists and myself will also publish an article to validate some of the thoughts. And I'm hoping that one of you participants can join us. Maybe your question can be the reason you would join those who will be authors of the article. So the time is now ripe for us to take 1 or 2 questions from the panelists and from the audience. If you do have a question, this is the time to raise up your hand and ask any question. You cannot embarrass my panelists. They are ready for you. Any question, they can deal. If you come male side, they will give it to you on the male side. Female side, they are there. Only 2 of them are wearing glasses. The others can see perfectly with their eyes. Any questions, please? Ayomide, do you have a question there? Ayomide Togbeshe. You can use the raise hand button if you're asking a question. If there are no questions, it means you've done a great job, or people are scared to ask questions so that their employers on the call will not mess them up. All right. Just before I call our panelists to give their closing statements, let me bring a few announcements to us and then we can close. I invite you again to take our survey. We're looking to hit about 2,000 respondents from the graduates. This is actually round 4 of our survey. We've been doing workplace readiness survey, round 1, round 2, round 3, and this is round 4. And we have found some findings. Sometime in October 2025, we are going to launch this report to share with stakeholders like you to let you know what exactly should you be expecting from those coming from the universities into the workplace. Workplace readiness skills and all of that. Employability issues are going to be revealing it to you. Sometime in May 2025, I'll be holding a public speaking masterclass. It's a physical event, so just people that are not permitted to be there, except you can come physically. I'm not going to do what John did for you. Virtual, you can't do virtual. You can't do virtual, you have to come into class because there's a portion for platform behavior. There's a session called platform behavior. You need to stand, make presentations, walk across the platform and use it. Abuja people stay in Abuja until we come for your own session. Okay? Those in Lagos, you can have us. So it's going to be holding in Lagos in May, last week in May 2025. We're specially inviting you. This one is a very big one. It's called Becoming a Consultant to Kings. It's going to be a hybrid event, holding physically and also virtually. It's about how to solve problems for influential people. That's what it means. Becoming a consultant to kings, how to solve problems for people with influence, how to solve problems for people with influence. All of us here relate with people with influence, but these people with influence have problems. How exactly do you solve problems for people with influence? This is a second edition of Becoming a Consultant to Kings, and we are inviting you to join us. Workplace Conversations 3.0 is coming up in May 2025. It's May 25, 2025. May 25, 2025. And we'll reveal the theme to you much later in our posters, possibly from the questions we get from you, or from inquiries, or from our research that we have been doing. And on this note, I'd like to say thank you. I'd like to call on our panelists now to give their final thoughts, one after the other, in no more than 20 seconds. No more than 20 seconds. Closing statements from our panelists. John, first from you, since you're not wearing glasses.
Okay, thank you very much. Final thoughts. The power blocks are the low interest, low power, low interest, high power, high interest, high power, low interest, whichever category, right? These are people that we really have to deal with in every aspect of our work, even as we grow in our career and your personal business, even your personal life, right? Just to say that the best way to implement all this that have been learned is not to wait for us to do it within the professional space, right? Even within the family circle, there are people in this category, right? So we could actually start practicalizing that now, and then it will be easy for us to transfer this knowledge to where we work. Thank you.
John, somebody's influencing your buying decision of noodles or Bonvita. That's what you're trying to do there. Thank you. Helen, you're not wearing glasses, so let's go to you as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, and thank you very much, everyone. I want to leave us with this, and that managing power and interest blocks in the workplace is not about manipulation or control. Not at all. It is rather your ability to actively identify your major stakeholders. Categorize them based on their power level, right? The ability to persuade or coerce you into taking a particular line of action, or their interest, how vested are they? What are their concerns? What are they interested in? What are their desires? What are their expectations? When you are able to adequately categorize them into the different quadrants, it would help you tailor your engagement in such a way that you would achieve your desired outcome, and effectively so. Because people just have their desires, they have their needs, they have their concerns and expectations working together in the same space. So please remember, even if you don't remember anything, remember that it's not about manipulation, neither is it about control. Thank you.
It's not about manipulation. Nena, you are the first of the glasses wearing panelists. Let's hear your thoughts.
Repping Akin very well.
All right.
All right. I would like to say stakeholder management is not a one-off exercise. You know, it's not something we do once and we stop. Truth is that they don't stay in one place forever. Roles will change, interests will change. You know, people will move. Their influence too can move. It can either grow or it will fade away. You know, so this is something that the people you even feel are very difficult to deal with now might become your most powerful allies later on. So as John said, we all manage stakeholders, even at home, even your children. They know who to talk to for ice cream. They know for kids. You know, they just have a way of doing. So that is how stakeholder management happens. Some people might say they don't have the power matrix now, you know, maybe fully functional in the organization, but somehow you're managing stakeholders. The people you are dealing with, procurement, so many things we are doing, we are managing stakeholders. So we should know that it's not a one-off exercise. Once you start, if it's something you can influence, it will be good, especially when you categorize. It will help you to, with the understanding we have now, it will help you to identify where each person should be and deal with them accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Akin, a final word and closing statement from you.
Yeah, so my final word is we've said so much as employers of labor, or people managing top level. I think it's also important to highlight all that we've said as it relates to young employees. And that's why I have just 4 things quickly. Number 1 is what we are talking about is not, we are not doing the power block for all staff. We're doing it for stakeholders. So my first advice to every employee, no matter how young you are in the organization, be a stakeholder. A stakeholder is somebody who holds stake, meaning that he does not necessarily own equity in a company, but he's such that he's important to the company. So even as you get into a company, wherever you find yourself as a young employee, ensure that you are a stakeholder. When they do this kind of metrics, they will even consider you. There are certain people in organizations that you don't even need to bother about. And it happens in every organization. So first, you need to be a stakeholder. 2, your power and interest block you must build. It has to be deliberate. It can't happen overnight. It can't happen by chance. So make deliberate efforts to build your level of power, whether it's by information, knowledge, authority, whatever it is, or trainings. I mean, attending all these trainings. I mean, Nathan Leadgate is doing a lot around this. So attending all these kind of trainings and building your interest. Thirdly, I think it's also important, like John said, have an advocate, have a mentor. I think that's a very important thing. Let somebody speak for you, and you need to find that person in the organization. And lastly, I think it was Helen that talked about business cases. And then I think it was Nena that talked about ROI, except I mixed the two. But it's important that whatever you do, even as a young employee, when you are taking up a request, you need to defend how it affects the business. It's important that even at a young stage, you are able to defend yourself and say, I'm bringing this idea, but I think it will impact the business this way. So I just highlighted those 4 things from everything all of us have said, and particularly for young employees. Thank you.
That's where you stole my note. That's where you stole my note. And so I want to say thank you. And as we close, just about the hour of 9 o'clock, or is it 10 o'clock now? Just about the hour of 10 o'clock here in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. Joy Samuel wrote there earlier on in the chat. She said, John, your cheat code is advocacy. So I'm going to tell you what I found to be the most compelling approaches of each one of you panelists. John was leveraging on advocacy. John's greatest approach to stakeholder management is to leverage. One. Helene's greatest approach is to make a business case. Just make a business case and you are going to be managing your stakeholders well. Akin's own is know where the person's domain is. If you know where the person is thriving, you'll be able to deal with him. Nena, she's a welfareist. Just solve the people's problem. Just any problem that they have, give them food in the canteen. Just solve their problem. Let them not come to work on Monday. That the moment you can touch the heart of the employees or touch the heart of that stakeholder, you will have solved the problems. And that really gives us 4 critical ways to really manage the stakeholders. Use advocates, make a business case, understand their domain and where they thrive the most, and solve their problem. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight. We just about spent 2 hours on this call, which was our max that we planned for. And I'm grateful that we did not waste any time, any second of the time. For all of you who have joined us for the first time, thank you. You possibly did not fill our assessment form, but we have gotten your names anyway. We'll be reaching out to you subsequently. Thank you and have a lovely night rest. For those of you still going to do school runs later tonight, please go ahead and do it. For those of you who are hoping that this meeting should just end so that we can go, it's now over. We'll be sharing this link with you later on. The video will be there. The articles also will be published in about a fortnight or less. So on behalf of the workplace team, Workplace Conversations team, and Nathan Leadgate, merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Thank you.
Achifo.
Odaro. Kachifo no, Odaro.